I've mained Scholar for about 10 years now, which sounds absolutely utterly insane, and I figured, let's talk about why I did it, what really even drew me to the job in the first place, and why I'm still maining it today. I'm gonna be very honest here, and this is gonna be a very honest moment. Initially, when I began playing, I need to confess, I was a very edgy teenager and I thought the fairy was stupid, and I'm gay, so I am really allowed to say this, but I thought Scholar was the gayest shit I ever saw, and I did not mean that in the nice way. However, when I was playing, I did enjoy Summoner a bit, and even though the Edgi were not, well, at all what I had in mind, since I thought of things like Yuna from Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy XI Summoner with the big things, I really still enjoyed the playstyle. I still say though that Summoner in Shadowbringers was peak. I was pushed into playing Scholar though because the playstyle was, during A Realm Reborn, pretty similar to Summoner, and we were always, and I mean always, down a healer. Didn't matter with my friends, with getting Qs to grind relics, or during the mind-numbing grind of Atmos back in the day. Who remembers that? And I'm talking about before they buffed the drop rate, because doing that on content, oh. So I had a Chocobo, and yes, I'm talking about my, to this day, beautiful Rar I'm a Dragon Chocobo, aptly named, which has saved me back then from going flat out insane during the grind. And I say that because I do Scholar's full DPS rotation, and yes, we really did. I end remain in cleric stance as my Chocobo tanked and the fairy healed. Fairy heals were also way more significant back then, way more powerful than today. Also, Celine was good for her rotating speed buffs. So out of necessity, teenaged me found myself as a Mikode. Oh wow, who could have guessed that I was a cat boy at one time? I just like, when I went from Mikode to Rothgar was like me going from like, okay, I'm a little kid, to like, now I'm an adult. That's kind of what happened in my mind. I just do not relate to my original character, even though at the time I really did. But I found myself as a Mikode on the gayest job, and initially I resented it, and I felt really uncomfortable. I was like, what am I, Catboy Peter Pan? Fairies? Oh hell no. But it made everything easier. It just made the game better. Now, when we got to Twintania and stuff through raids, I really began to truly appreciate Scholar. Sacred Soil is a button that today we call insanely powerful. I'd argue, in fact, it's probably the lowest cooldown, most powerful, impactful skill in the game, right beside Sage's equivalent. And in A Realm Reborn, we had a different word for it. Dog shit. I think it wasn't that bad back then, but it was universally considered dog shit. I still used it though. Beyond like raw HP numbers and doing damage, I still like the idea of being able to provide shielding for allies and being able to really dig deep and play like an Affliction Warlock healer. And coming from League of Legends, I had a keen feeling of how good berries were. I think around this time was when they also released Lulu, who to this day still applies berries, or Janna actually used to do a lot of them. Either way, I began to appreciate the fairy's persistent so-called real healer support, because oh hell no, imagine healing as a healer, right? I don't want to use my GCDs even back then on that. And I just went full Affliction Warlock and Cleric stance, all the Biomiasma, Shadow Flare, Thunder, Arrow, and that was all really super crazy engaging to me. I liked it. It felt impactful. I felt like I was juggling a lot. I found it hard for myself to really feel bored, and there was definitely an unending list of reasons to play it. Eventually, there was some very negative stuff that happened in real life, and I'll sum it up to all of a sudden I felt really alone in my life, and there was just a lot going on, and I eventually started to warm up to the concept, the idea, even though obviously fake, of having someone by my side help me out. Like, obviously that sounds stupid, but like, if I'm being transparent and honest in this video, like the whole idea of not being alone, especially back then, really appealed to me. That was not a fun time. And until Endwalker, and many would argue quite effectively still to this day, there is still no job that actually has an active contributor to your efficacy in a fight in parallel to your own actions. It used to be so much more wild before, because you could issue a fairy command as I cast Revive, which was awesome. I will, however, obviously confess I will take the snappier, more responsive fairy over the less responsive one any single day of the week. I think that it was a huge revamp. This expansion, I think that they really knocked pet AI out of the park. I don't know what they did, but it really is better. But more to the point, even today, this remains true, since every other healer needs to apply and manage their regen effects. Even Sage needs to swap card your target, and Sage needs to also keep spamming doses. Scholar, one big perk of it is that I still have Eos or Celine healing as I cast Revive. Small numerically, sure, absolutely, I agree, it is small numerically. It might actually sometimes it actually has saved people for me, but That might be how much I play Scholar though, but the flavor of your fairy helper helping regardless though is everything. That flavor is so good. However, when Heavensward came out, and this was actually a huge mental hurdle for younger me, dissipation, the idea that you'd get rid of your fairy, even though today I'd argue it's undeniably one of the best, most impactful single buttons in the entire game, but back then, young me thought that that button was anathema, absolutely repulsive and an insult to the entire idea of Scholar to get rid of my co-healing friend. We also had to like resummon the pet. It was dissipation. How to say it? Obviously today I don't feel the same because it is at bare minimum, like absolute least you will get is a DPS boost. You'll often get way more value than that out of it, and sure, it is going to be a very, very small feels bad one, especially because of all the energy drain nerfs, but 300 more potency in the right situation is great. Now this gets into more modern Scholar. We all know for a fact that we've lost the juggling of multiple dots. In fact, Summoner today even plays nothing at all like before, which I still feel that Shadowbringer Summoner was peak Summoner gameplay, even though I do enjoy current Summoner. But Scholar's kit moves significantly into proactive skills. They buffed Sacred Soil, which I always thought was okay, but largely we considered it dog shit, like I said before. It's just really, really powerful now, though. It's like insanely powerful. Any damage not done is ultimately healing ahead of time, even in a Realm Reborn. But you're slapping a heal over time effect on an AoE that was just... There is a reason why you see Sacred Soil out constantly in any of my videos. It is your water is Scholar, keep the team hydrated. Now we've seen things like XCOG plan trigger heal with a clear condition. That is freaking great. Seraph, well, Fey Illumination was always in game, so I can't say Fey Illumination. Protraction, you can argue is a 10% targets max health, replenishable temporary barrier. Dare I forget Recitation, add low spread, like that's amazing. Or the brand new Expedient, which is AoE 10% mitigation that stacks. Ultimately, we have really shifted away from a playstyle that I 100% do wish to see come back, at least in some flavor, maybe not the full thing, but at least a little bit. I'd like to at least have like Miasma or another damage over time effect come back, or Shadow Flare, better yet, both. I'd take 3. I think that it would be a fair design to give us 3, like Shadow Flare, Miasma, and then like our Biolysis. Instead though, we have Chain Stratagem, which is just not very interactive gameplay, which if you think that it turned me off the job in recent years, 1/32 damage over time effect and Broil Spam and a nerfed energy drain that doesn't even restore MP anymore, and in easier content, you'd be right. I am definitely turned off compared to before. Absolutely undeniably. I'm not gonna lie to you. But say in like the Epic of Alexander, or mind you, UCOB way back in the day, but I don't like thinking about that. It was not a good experience, but it was interesting. I digress. Like, harder content begets more fun as a healer these days. We've shifted into being more of a proactive healer style. I think we always were to some degree, but it's like even more and more and more. And to really fulfill that barrier healer realness fantasy, and I enjoy it. I still think to this day XCOG is a very powerful skill. Recitation XCOG in any expert dungeon allows me to quite literally shut off my brain for a good period of time. It is great. Or popping Seraph during high burst periods, amazing. Recitation guarantees a crit adlo, which yes, galvanize, catalyze, different buffs, I know very, very well, so you can't spread the crit portion, but it still amplifies the base portion a ton. So crit adlo is guaranteed to spread, is literally having your cake and eating it too. It's such an amazing addition. Recitation, in my opinion, kind of broke the game. Then they nerfed the shit out of it. Now, after all these years, while Scholar has undeniably changed, I still very much enjoy it. I won't back down from saying I want Chain Stratagem, which is undeniably powerful. It is the easiest, most brain-free, non-gameplay impacting DPS contribution in the game, but that's exactly why I'd like it changed. This is in spite of Scholar's evolution, turning its healing kit up and its healing playstyle into something I really love. Planning mitigation goes where, and being able to like buff things to shrug off things is really funny. Playing Limbo is fun. How low will their HP go? While also having a personal co-healer that pads out the spaces as I mindlessly broil my heart out. That clicks. Which gets into Endwalker's story, which made me love Scholar all the more. My Nana also recently died. It's been many months now though, so I shouldn't say recently. And so it hit really hard because she always went by being a butterfly, a nickname that I gave her when I was a kid, and it stuck, and she was like this blue butterfly. It just stuck, and so the fairy meant a lot from that angle. But Endwalker's story also spoke about how the ancients would bring into existence different creations and like will and all this stuff. Scholar and Summoner by definition do that, and frankly I found that entire idea and lore fascinating, and it really amped up my love for Scholar. It's one reason why you see so much more of me playing it after my Nana's passing. many months ago. It's not that I hate Sage. Unfortunately, I feel just so much more significantly more attached to Scholar. And well, that's why Scholar. That's why after a decade, I'm still playing this exact same job.